Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Great to be here with you today on the second Cabral HouseCall of the weekend. Today we're going to be diving into another 5 to 6 of our community's questions. Hopefully you got to tune in yesterday. It was a great show. We spoke about parasites and different worms and how to get rid of those, maybe the one factor you might be overlooking. We also talked about yeast and fungal-based overgrowth. We talked about methylene blue. Let's see what else we spoke about. Talked about 67 years old and just getting into health the first time. Is there hope? We spoke about that. And then the last one we spoke about was different supplements that are okay during pregnancy. So feel free to check out that show just by heading on over to stephencabral.com/podcasts. And today's show, for all today's questions and show notes, are at stephencabral.com/3299. All right, let's dive in. First question today is from Frank. Frank says, is there real health benefits to grounding mats? And it's a great question. So I have actually done a whole interview on the science of grounding mats with Clint Ober, and you can check that out at stephencabral.com/podcast. You can just go over my interviews. I don't interview a lot of people, truthfully, because it's a solo show. That's how it was always designed to be. But sometimes I want to interview people that are experts in their space. He's been in the space for 30 plus years. And so I interviewed him on grounding mats. I will say that it is clinically verified that it increases negative ions, electrons in the body. And that can be really helpful to help with overall inflammation, breaking up essentially agglutinated red blood cells, help with oxygenation and much more. So yes, is it first on my list? No, it's not first on my list, but it's definitely, it could be a great tool without a doubt. And it can be nice to use. It's also nice just to walk outside, as long as obviously it's not too cold. Put your feet right on the grass first thing in the morning, and that's a great way to ground as well. All right. And I would say, Frank, if you're on the 16th floor or 30th floor of a building, even more important to be using PEMF and grounding mats because you're further from the earth itself. And that's actually how they were developed with NASA, specifically PEMF. All right, Shannon's up next. And by the way, all of my grounding and PEMF recommendations that I personally use are at stephencabral.com/resources. All right, Shannon is up. Hello, my son was recently diagnosed with MS. He is a very healthy-minded and active young man, and we are looking for ways to aid the treatments in keeping his flare-ups at bay. What do you think of Andrographis, and can you recommend a brand? All right, yeah, happy to help with this. So when anyone is diagnosed with a disease, and I totally get it because I did it myself. You don't want to look at an herb or any natural health product as a pill for an ill either, right? So I'm not coming down obviously on you, Shannon, but I want to be able to help. So they're very helpful, right? They're very helpful. Like if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease or PCOS or, poor lipids, berberine, is phenomenal. Andrographis can be great for MS, but it certainly wouldn't be like, okay, this is the first thing I need to do is get Andrographis, because it's not. So first we need to know, what is MS? So MS is essentially the immune system attacking the myelin sheath of the nerves and the nerve receptors. Okay. So now we would say, why? Why is that happening, right? You say, oh, it's genetics. Okay. But your son didn't have it 5 years ago or 10 years ago or however old he is, but he has it now. So something had to change inside of the body in order to set off the immune system. For example, I didn't have rheumatoid arthritis until I was 17. Then I had rheumatoid arthritis. And then years later, I was able to get rid of rheumatoid arthritis. Still the same genes. That hasn't changed, right? Had type 2 diabetes. Okay. Don't have it anymore. So what I say to you is that you find the underlying root cause. One of those could be very high levels of inflammation from omega-6s to omega-3s, because it's one of the best things that we see is a higher level of omega-3 intake, an anti-inflammatory diet, a high antioxidant diet to squelch free radicals, potentially hydrogen water, and finding the underlying root cause, which might be gut dysfunction. So I would absolutely look at that. And maybe heavy metals. So what I would do is run the big 5. If this was my child, the first thing I would do is run the big 5. That's really it. If they're over 15, 16 years old, because they would run the stress, mood, and metabolism. If they're under 15 years old, you don't necessarily need to run that stress, mood, and metabolism test. You would just run the 4 others of the big 5. You can find the big 5 by literally just typing in big and then number 5 after stephencabral.com, or just by going to stephencabral.com/shop, and that takes you over to EcoLife. You don't have to work with the EcoLife team. You could also work with an integrative health practitioner at level 2 or soon to be level 3, whatever works best for you. All right. But that's exactly how we do it. And please do read the rain barrel effect. And I think that will obviously be very helpful in looking to empty the rain barrel and actually move through, what is best, because then we can start to look at, okay, well, what are the best things? Optimizing omega-3s, vitamin D3, using things like inflammasub with curcumin, using things like Cell Boost with alpha lipoic acid. So yeah, all those are great. All right. Let's see the next question. Next question is from Shannon. The next question is from Elsa. Elsa says, "Hi, Dr. Cabral. Just finished my first ever 7-day detox and ready to do some tests. I'm 58 years old, work out regularly, and eat a relatively healthy diet. Was diagnosed with hypothyroidism many years ago and taking NP thyroid at the present time. 3.5 years ago, was surprised by a heart attack, which led to the placement of several stents on my LAD. This made me focus on my health and try to find out what the underlying causes were, although all explanations I got was that it was all genetics. Of course, cardiologist wants me to take statins, aspirin, and blood thinners for life, which I'm not willing to do if I can help it. My question is about blood thinners and aspirin. Could something like proteolytic enzymes combined with omega-3s work in a similar way?" Okay, great question. So you're asking me to provide medical advice, and I can't provide medical advice, right? So all I can say is, what would I do if this, was my particular case, or, with my mom or something like that? So you talked about stents on your LAD. The LAD is your left anterior descending coronary artery. So basically, it's a large amount of blood is supplied to the heart through the LAD. So if that is blocked, that's obviously a bad thing because it could lead to a heart attack. So a very not too invasive procedure would be to open up that blockage, right? So that might be, if it's very high risk, you might want to open up that blockage where a doctor basically threads a catheter through the coronary or into the coronary arteries and then uses a little balloon to open it up. Now, again, I know that there's risk to everything. I totally get it. And then what you were saying, I would do, but I would include exercise if you're not already exercising. I would include proteolytic enzymes, which include nattokinase. I would use vitamin K2 at a little bit higher dosage, and magnesium with that as well. And so those are all the things I would do to try to reduce the plaque. However, we also want to look at, is your overall HDL low and your oxidized cholesterol high, because we want to look at overall diet, exercise, nutritional supplement selection, et cetera. All right. So that's where I would start personally. And for me, I like the idea of using omega-3s as a blood thinner, and I like proteolytic enzymes to help kind of roto-rooter a lot of that plaque. However, and vitamin K2 and magnesium, however, they are not a statin. A statin would be something like red yeast rice extract, or also using berberine or plant sterols. That's more what that would be for cholesterol. All right. Anonymous is up next. "The other night, my mom stood up and started having vision problems. Everything was jittery. She felt like she was going to puke and passed out. She woke up and passed out again. No memory of this. She's 60, eats well, walks and runs daily, and is at a healthy weight. She has high stress, high cholesterol, and calcium buildup. She's working on all of this and takes digestive enzymes. She's been tracking her blood pressure, 117/47 at dinner, 125/59 after passing out, 104/60 10 minutes later, and 135/67 this morning. The only thing that changed recently is increased coffee consumption. I'm wondering if she was dehydrated and standing up too quickly caused her blood pressure to drop, but I'm also worried it's more serious. Do you have test recommendations to look for more serious underlying root causes? Thanks for all you do." Okay. So yeah, this absolutely could be a blood pressure issue. So systolic is the top number of blood pressure and diastolic is the bottom number of blood pressure. And anybody can get a simple blood pressure monitor to use right at home, and I do recommend it. So I have all my favorite resources at stephencabral.com/resources. So 117 for a systolic, that's the top number, is great. No issues there. You want it 120 essentially over 80, but ideally like 110 over 70, right? But your mom's BP was 47 for her diastolic. That's quite low. So a lot of times doctors will be happy with that because they're like, well, it's really low. That means that you're not going to have a stroke or anything like that. So great, but that's not ideal. It's quite low for that diastolic. So I'm just wondering, is there an autonomic nervous system issue like you just described with mineral corticoids? That's the balance of sodium, potassium, from increasing high stress and caffeine, which is a stressor, causing a depletion of sodium in the body, causing her then to get lightheaded when standing. So I would absolutely look at that. I would, if she's okay with it, begin to move back from the caffeine to decaf coffee, or go with an organic mold-free. Again, my favorites are at stephencabral.com/resources. And then what I would also do is I would start to add a little bit of electrolytes to her water for right now. And that would basically be a pinch of sea salt to taste and a squeeze of lime. So that's what I would do. Very simple, or your favorite electrolyte. That would be fine. Another great one that I like is called Relight as well. Okay, so those are my recommendations. Again, not medical advice or medical treatment plans or diagnosis or cures. And then you may, if things don't improve, also look at inner ear issues and maybe run a tilt table test. Because there's so many things this could be. A tilt table test is basically going to look at sodium, potassium, but then what are they going to do? They're going to put you on, Florinef, like they did for me when I was younger and failed the tilt table test when I had Addisons disease. So it's not the cure, that's for sure. It's just a medication. It's a pharmaceutical. So I'd always look for that underlying root cause and see what type of process is going on in the body to dysregulate that nervous system and blood pressure. All right, one more question for today. It's from Stacy. Stacy says, hello, Dr. Brawl. I hope your day is blessed. Same to you, Stacy. What is your opinion on hydrogen air machines? I've been doing some research on them, and it looks like they're used in hospitals in other countries for faster healing. It also seems the benefit of breathing it in is far more beneficial than drinking the water. They are saying it can reverse cancers, Parkinson's, dementia, heal faster, etc. Do you have a brand that you would suggest if you use one yourself? Okay. So again, I can't provide any medical advice, medical treatment plans, medical cures, medical diagnosis, and we can't make any claims. So what I would say is this, is that it's not practical for most people. The machines are about the same price as a electrolyzed water machine, which is the one that I recommend that gets the hydrogen into the body through consumption. They are not dangerous, but it's like having an oxygen machine. You want to be able to properly regulate the hydrogen. I believe the number is if it's above 4%, it actually is flammable. So you have to be careful with that, just like an oxygen machine. And you have to wear a mask for it to work, or a cannula, so a nasal cannula. So that's why it's typically used more in hospitals. So yes, absolutely. You can get hydrogen in nasally, no, like intranasally. So no issues with that at all. I just don't find it as practical. And also, everybody needs to consume water. So I just find it easier as a general recommendation to have people start getting rid of all their plastic bottles and just to use the reverse osmosis filter that I talk about at stephencabral.com/hydrogen-water. And then hook it up to a hydrogen water machine like the K8 that I recommend. And now you've got kind of the best of all worlds. You've got high antioxidant water, no more plastic and microplastics. And you've got something that's clinically proven to help with overall aging, mitochondria, inflammation, and more. So that's what I would do. Am I against hydrogen air machines? No, not at all. Just looking at safety, time and place for everything. If you have a severe dis-ease, then maybe you look at that. I've actually recommended EWAT before, exercise with oxygen therapy. You can find that at highperformancehealth.org. So yes. So again, time and place for everything. Definitely think that there's benefits to it. And if you are at a clinic helping with a lot of these things, they may actually use that in the clinic along with a hyperbaric oxygen therapy chamber, a hard shell one, a hard container. And that can be great as well for increasing oxygen saturation in the body and the cells as well. All right. So great question, Stacy. Again, I would expect nothing less from our amazing community. Thank you so much for participating in this weekend's Cabral House Calls. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new Cabral concept. Take care, everyone. Be well. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.